Michael Penix Jr., Bijan Robinson, and the Atlanta Falcons take on Jonathan Taylor, Daniel Jones, and the Indianapolis Colts in a big matchup for both of these teams. They are coming off of losses. Indianapolis looked like they might have been the best team in football before they dropped that game against Pittsburgh. Daniel Jones throwing 3 interceptions. And then for Atlanta, that was maybe Michael Penix Jr.'s best performance of his career, a 3-touchdown, no interception day against New England Patriots, in which they fall by a single point. This matchup is awesome. The two running backs, two of the best 5 running backs in football, Jonathan Taylor and Bijan Robinson, go head-to-head. That's what's so fun about this type of a game is anytime someone has the football, you have the chance to see a really explosive play. Now, obviously, one of the major storylines in football this season, the trade. The Indianapolis Colts acquire Sauce Gardner. Now, it's as of right now, Tuesday evening, and I'm not quite sure if Sauce Gardner is going to be playing in this game. Sauce is one of the best cornerbacks in football. He's been dealing with a concussion. They also trade away A.D. Mitchell, a little bit of an embattled player, had been in the doghouse for the last couple of weeks after he dropped that ball against Los Angeles Rams. He only had a target last week against Pittsburgh, and his role had been a bit limited. You've seen a lot more of Josh Downs, 9 targets. Alec Pierce, 13 targets. Michael Pittman Jr., 12 targets against the Pittsburgh Steelers. This was the exact type of game plan the Colts have very hard put work into to try and stay away from. 50 passing attempts from Daniel Jones. That's not a recipe for success in the National Football League, especially against the Steelers defense that at their highest level is one of the best in the league, of course, led by superstars like TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. Jonathan Taylor, his worst day of the season, 14 carries for 45 yards. Of course, not really any explosive runs in that game. When I'm looking at Atlanta and Indy, a lot of this is going to be oriented around the offense. I think that we do see some points scored here. These are two teams loaded with offensive weapons. The amount of onus I'm going to put on the tight ends is huge here. Kyle Pitts in his breakout season that he's having for Atlanta cannot be overstated. Even in a bit of a quieter game, still had 4 catches for 40 yards against New England. Of course, Drake London stole the show, a career day, 3 touchdowns, $120 on 9 catches, 14 targets, and of course, Bijan Robinson, 50 yards and 8 catches out of the backfield as an effective catcher, effective receiver, I should say, with his targets. He's the type of guy that Zaire Franklin's very much so going to have to keep his eye on and worry about to cover out of the backfield. You've seen Bijan take just about a simple little screenplay that should go for 3 yards and get 13 out of it very often this season. Indianapolis will have to shut that down. This cannot be a game they let Bijan wreck it, and vice versa. The Atlanta Falcons, you can't let Jonathan Taylor beat you. He's that good. I'm really looking at the interior. So these defensive lines, a guy like DeForest Buckner for Indianapolis, who's just been a menace for the Colts. And then there's Latu on the edge. He had arguably the best game of his career against Pittsburgh. That's why he was the first defensive player taken in the 2024 NFL draft. That was all about quarterbacks, all about the old linemen, all about the 3 wide receivers in the top 10. How about Latu? 3 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, the former UCLA Bruin. He's going to have a nice day getting pressure on Michael Penix Jr. in this one. I mentioned Sauce Gardner. If he were to play in this type of game and get to see him go against Drake London, of course that would steal the show. But I talked a little bit about a guy like Zaire Franklin. I think that his ability as a cover linebacker gets overstated. A lot of the attention goes to guys like Roquan Smith a lot of the time. And right now, Devin Lloyd for the Jaguars in the same division, obviously, as Indianapolis. These guys get a lot of hype, get a lot of credit. But Zaire Franklin's been one of the players at this position for a while now. And I look at other players on this defense like Kwity Paye, Mekhi Blackman, Nick Ross. This is a defense that is one of the better units in football. When you look at the amount of takeaways they're producing, 10 interceptions, that's 3rd in the league. They've done a very good job at taking the football away. Turnover differential, they're right there. They're +3 which is 11th in the NFL. And some of that obviously contributes to what they can do as an offense. This is the number one offense in the National Football League. 32 points per game, complementary style football. When you're able to run the football and keep your offense on the field, at least for a long enough time, the Colts aren't an elite time of possession team. They haven't needed to. Sometimes they get down the field and score so quickly that they're not able to keep their defense on the sidelines and staying fresh. But yards per game, 383 a game, that's second in the NFL. And you compare all of this to Atlanta, who's been a decent offense. The only thing is for them is they haven't really been scoring all that many points. 28th in the league. They're bottom 5 in points per game with 18. The yards, they're a bit better. 15th in the league with 336 points per game. So I think we're going to expect to see a lot of emphasis on running the ball. Which team can keep the balance a little bit more? In these international games, a lot of the time, like maybe if you saw Rams-Jacksonville, if you're a Colts fan, getting up early, paying attention to that matchup. For me out here in California, that's a 6:30 kick. A lot of times I'm finishing up my college videos from the night before, sometimes around 1 or 2 a.m. So I'll apologize if I'm not going to be running on 2-3 hours of sleep for the day of NFL. So I caught that one's highlights, and that was a Jacksonville team that frankly got outplayed by the Rams. Rams came out stormy, and Jacksonville just didn't look right. Is one of these teams a little bit groggier? I'm not predicting that. I'm just curious about the way that this game flows. There's no way to predict. Talk about a Rams team that showed up out there and they were just ready to roll. They'd only been there for less than 24 hours, I believe, when that game kicked off. Michael Penix, how does he perform under pressure on the day? He can make all the throws. Anticipation, getting the ball out on time, one of the more talented arms in the league. Daniel Jones, I've seen him play one time in person. It was actually, I want to say in New York. So 2019 Bears and the Giants, I was out there at Soldier Field seeing him warm up in front of me. His arm doesn't get enough credit. When he throws a football 25, 30 yards, it's on a line. That ball pops out of his hand. I've seen Michael Penix Jr. also play one time. It was against USC at the Coliseum in a 52-42 game in which the Huskies were able to knock off the Trojans in a wild one against Caleb Williams. That was the year Washington went on to lose the national championship game. But these are physical, big body quarterbacks that can move around well enough. I've been a little bit disappointed we haven't seen more of Daniel Jones' legs like you saw earlier on in the year. Only 3 carries on the day against Pittsburgh. He did have a rushing touchdown, which is of note. I would like to see him run the football a little bit against Atlanta. I think that this rushing attack on the edge, specifically with what Atlanta's got working now with Jalen Walker and the rookie James Pierce Jr. If they have these guys on the field and healthy, they in 2-3 years, this could be maybe the best group of edge rushers in the NFL. That defensive line's been getting a lot more pressure on the quarterback. 6 sacks on Drake May for phenomenal day. Brandon Dorless, he had 2 sacks against London. He had 2 sacks. And then in the back end, I got to give a shout out to Xavier Watts. The rookie out of Notre Dame had led the NFL, led college football with 13 takeaways the past 2 seasons for the Fighting Irish. A big part of why that team went to the national championship game a season ago with Marcus Freeman and Al Golden as a defensive coordinator, now with Cincinnati. But Xavier Watts, he's starting to come along a little bit more. I believe he's getting a little bit trust from Atlanta fans. And back there, they don't really mention him all that much. But he's the type of guy that I really enjoy watching him. So as he develops into one of the premier back-end safety players in the league, that's a type of guy that I think could come away with a takeaway in this game against Indianapolis. And the style that Indianapolis plays, it's an offense that always waits for their opportunities to take their shots. And with a guy like Alec Pierce or Michael Pittman that have that ability to go vertical, it's exciting. I mentioned the tight end matchup also, Tyler Warren versus Kyle Pitts. Tyler Warren has like the same type of targets every game. He's going to have 7, 8, 9 targets It's just a matter of he gets into the end zone just about every other week. I think he's got to get his opportunities in the red zone. I think he will get them against Atlanta. I don't have a question of whether these tight ends will play well. It's just which guy is able to have a larger impact. If I were to guess, I would say Tyler Warren. The linebacking core I do like a little bit more for Indianapolis than in the interior of what Atlanta is working with. So I'm going to take the Indianapolis Colts. I think they win this game 29-23. At sort of a first glance, the 6.5 points seems to be a little bit too much to me. I think 6.5 closing in right on a touchdown spread is a little bit wide just because of the firepower that Atlanta possesses, and they can keep up with any offense when they are clicking. It's a matter of executing in the red zone and not turning the football over. And having Drake London healthy immediately, that this makes this game a lot more dangerous for Indy. It's just a matter of Daniel Jones. He showed something he hasn't this entire season that you are very used to if you were a New York Giant fan. I would imagine a ton of Giants fans are watching this, maybe a couple. But when he gets sacked 5 times like that and he's not protected all that well, and some of that has to do with he throws the football 50 times and has that many dropbacks, and there's not that balance in teams biting on the play action. It makes it very difficult as a quarterback in 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. That type of day, not expecting that poor of a performance. I think they get back to what they've been doing this season and beat the Atlanta Falcons by a score of 29-23. Want to hear from you guys. What do you think of this matchup? Who gets the dub at Olympic Stadium? Does Atlanta prevail and move to 4-5? A must-win game for the Falcons. For a team that was looking hot, they certainly, after that loss to San Francisco and this past week to New England, 3-5, they cannot afford to drop to 3-6 on the season. That would be pretty much devastating to their playoff hopes. Right now at 3-5, it's already looking really steep with the way the Carolina Panthers are right now at 5-4. Of course, the Bucks and the way they've played, or even the race to get a wild card, 2 games behind Chicago at 5-3, 2.5 behind the 49ers at 6-3 currently. So a lot of work to do, and they got to beat the Colts. I don't think they get it done. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you guys so much. We're trying to get that subscriber count higher each and every week. It's been great to see those numbers and a lot of you guys enjoying this content. Let me know down below what you feel about this sport right now, some of your better teams in the league. I want to hear any and all of your thoughts about the sport right now. Any feedback, criticisms, critique you have for me. I love hearing all that stuff. Thank you for watching this Blitz with Blender video. Again, I'm Josh Blender. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.